Hey Willowites. Okay, so this is another witchcraft video. This is going to teach you some of the things that you're going to need for your altar. Now, as you can see, I already have this tablecloth on here. Very springtime. You can get, like I said, you can just cover it with a tablecloth, whatever color, whatever season that you're celebrating. There you go. Actually, it would be better if I had like red or green. Valentine's Day is tomorrow, and of course we're coming up on St. Patrick's Day, but also spring is in the air, so this is so fun. So you have this. Now we're going to talk about, this could be considered an altar cloth, but we're going to talk about different types of altar cloths, because if you go out there and you search, you're going to see some different types, and all of these are okay. It's, you know what, it's what you, this is a reflection of you. So whatever you have, if you like it, then that's perfectly fine. There's no right or wrong way to have your altar set up in a certain way. Okay, it's this, your altar is a reflection of you as a witch. So now this, when you order online an altar cloth, this is what you get. Okay, this, to me, I grew up Catholic. This is like an altar cloth. This is not what I consider an altar cloth. Okay, this tiny little thing. If you have a very tiny little space, that's fine. It's a very thin fabric. I don't really consider it durable for work. So, you know, if you go out and you're like actively seeking altar cloths and you see this and it looks like it's really big, this is what it is. So just buyer beware on that. You could also get scrap remnants depending on how big your altar is. This is a scrap remnant. I have used this for about 20 years. I still love it. Also, another thing that I want to talk about is that your altar cloths, not only should they reflect the spring, the fall, whatever season, or, you know, if you're doing for Samhain or Embolic, it should definitely embrace those types of colors. But also, it also depends on what type of spell you are in, your intention is for. Of course, different colors have different meanings, so they're of course going to enhance or detract from the spell that you want to do. So if you were doing a spell for money, you would definitely want to use a green cloth. Now, it not only protects your altar, but for me, it's basically like a reflection pod. It captures all the energy on top of the spells that you're doing. When you close out a spell, and I will teach you how to do this, when you close out a spell, you take that energy from your altar top and you release it. So this cloth is gathering up your energy. And basically, it's like when you just like gather up a tablecloth with all the dishes in it and take it all away at once. That is what this is doing, okay? In my personal opinion. Now, every witch has a different opinion on it. This is just my personal opinion. So I always use, for whatever spell I'm doing, the right color cloth for it. So that's just something else. And of course, you can never go wrong with pure white. Pure white is the reflection. It does symbolize energy. So it is a perfect reflection. This is, now again, all this stuff, except for the fabric remnant, this stuff I got at thrift stores. You do not have to break your bank to find beautiful altar cloths for your altar. Okay? This stuff will fit beautifully. You take an old curtain that you really like, cut it down. This is a runner. What I was telling you about is a runner. Okay? And then, as I was saying, you can have placemats. Now, I bought this. I have a couple of different placemats. I couldn't find it. I can't find half the stuff. Again, this is a nice velvet placemat. I got it at probably Goodwill for like a couple bucks. This, and it still has the tags on it, $7.99. I didn't pay $7.99 for this. I don't have to. But right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the white and I'm going to lay that down because I'm going to show you how we're going to lay out an altar. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you first your basic necessities for an altar, and then we're going to go into all the little add-ons that you can add on later as you become more proficient, as you become more confident. So it's not something that you have to start off with. But right now, I'm going to show you what you do have to start off with. So I'm going to smooth this out, make sure it's all nice and smooth and centered here. Okay. I'm happy with that. Now, the very first thing you have to start off with, you have to start off with some sort of pentacle or pentagram. What's the difference? The pentagram is just the star itself. The pentacle is with the circle around it. Now, whatever I do, I use a full pentacle. Why? Each point of this star represents, and the reason why this star is connected like this is because everything in this world is connected, okay? This is the soul, this is water, this is air, this is earth, and this is fire. Okay, all of these exist on this planet, and every single one of these can be good and they can be bad depending on the intention. The earth can give food, but it can also cause a landslide and kill you. Fire, obviously, can cause great devastation, but out of that, it helps to fertilize the soil and begin new growth. The air, obviously, we need air to breathe, but carried in the air is also toxins and diseases, which can kill us. And water, we need water to live as well, but tsunamis and floods and drowning, water can kill us too. And the circle represents that all of these things exist together, that we can't do without any of them. You think, oh, well, you know, we could do without fire. Actually, we can't. Fire heats our homes. Fire cooks our food. We can't. We can do without it in some places. Like where I am in Florida, we can do without fire. Figure out a way to we could cook with the sun because we have the sun. But in places like Alaska, Norway, Sweden, no, you need fire. You have to have some sort of heat, otherwise you're gonna freeze to death. So yes, it's all. And you don't have to have this. I love this because it has a cat in it. This is actually a plaque, but I use this as my centerpiece on my altar, and that's exactly what it is. It goes right in the center of your altar. Okay. You don't have to go that big. You can get something very small, especially if you have a small altar. This is actually a metal tile, and of course this is actually a stone tile. It's very pretty, and it will do the same thing. You can make your own. Just remember that if you're making your own, there are no breaks in the star. Okay, if you look at the star, it is all interconnected, and that's for a reason. So if you're placing your star, you can't break here, break here, break here. It has to be all in one. And when you're drawing the star in any of your spell work, you have to start from the bottom left-hand corner and do a continuous star. And I will teach you how to do that later. I'm going to put these to the side for now. So the next thing, oh, and I forgot to bring that out. Crap. I forgot to bring it out. Do I have something else here that can stand in? Actually, I do. So this is going to stand in for me, my crystal ball. This is my smaller crystal ball. I have a much larger crystal ball that I have not been able to place yet. So the next thing that you're going to put on your altar is a stone. This represents your spirit, and it also represents the intention of the spell that you're going to do. It could be any stone. It could be a rose quartz, malachite, clear quartz, amethyst. It doesn't matter as long as you have a stone that will work for the purpose that you intended it to. That is what you would put right here. Because I forgot to bring the stone out. This is actually clear quartz anyway. Polished, clear. That would work in a pinch, but I do not recommend using a crystal ball. So the next spot that you're going to do, and this really, really needs a cleaning. This got really bad. And so that you can tell this is actual silver, it's really tarnished. So the next thing you're going to need is your wine goblet, or your water goblet. It represents water, obviously. That's why it's the water goblet. And you would fill this with, I use spring water. I keep a bottle of spring water all the time. This would be filled before I put this on my altar. What I do is I have a small table off to the side. I have everything I need all set up, ready to go, and I put this with water filled right there. So it's ready to go. Now, when you are setting up your altar, and this is something I will go into in another video, you will intone what each of these are for on your altar as you're putting it on your altar, okay? So right now I'm just setting it up so that you can see what your altar will look like when you're ready to go and start doing something. Now the next one, where is it? There's so much junk here. Here it is. So the next one is air. And air can be represented with a wand. Air can be represented with a feather. Oh, that's a feather pen. So, or it can be represented by your anthem. It's interchangeable on that. I choose always to use the wand. I save the feathers for other things because there are so many spells where you use feathers. I have to use the supply that I have and not take it from here and there. So I keep my supplies separate. So always, always, always I put this here. But you don't have to. If you're walking by a lake and you see this beautiful like duck feather or swan feather and you're like, that's going right on my altar, that's perfect. You just have to remember anything that you put on or off your altar or take off your altar, you always have to cleanse it. Now, I'm not worried about these because every time I take these off of my altar, I cleanse each and every one of these before I put them away. So when I put them on my altar, they are all ready to go. Okay? We'll talk about cleansing later. So the next thing you would do would be, now you would either put sand or you would put dirt in here. And that is a representation of the earth. Okay? You could also, if you want to, you could put sand here. Sand would be a representation of the sea. You could also put a seashell there. Well, I should say water. So you can interchange that, but this is like the most common way that you're going to find an altar set up. So I'm showing you the most, especially if you look at a book, this is the most common way that your altar is going to be set up. I try to keep it as simple as possible. Once you get more comfortable, you can absolutely interchange it with more prized possessions and more favored items. Especially if you're doing something that's like a water spell. You may want to have something that's a little more water specific, so you may change this out for a seashell or something. So that's perfectly fine as well. And then the very last one is the symbol of fire. Now some people will put a candle right there. Other people will put their anthem. Now if your anthem is down here, then you would put the candle there. But your wand would never... You could put your wand in the fire position. I wouldn't. That's me. I wouldn't. You can, but this is the way I prefer to have everything set up on my altar. Okay. So then the next thing that you're going to need is you are going to need a candle. Now, I have the lantern. Why do I have a lantern? And you go to the dollar store and you could get like the colorful lanterns and you can get some of the votives and put it in there. Why do I prefer the lantern? Well, in ancient times, you couldn't go walking out with a candlestick. It also protects, because the glass. This is made for candles and high temp, so that it's going to keep from burning. It's going to keep wax from dripping down, and I do prefer it as opposed to having like a regular candlestick. Why do I put this on my altar? It's to light the way on the path that I need to keep to, and to keep myself out of the shadows and out of the darkness. It's a reminder to myself to keep myself on the right path and not to stray into the black magic. Now, do I do black magic? Yes, I do. Do I put this lantern on there? No, I do not. So just keep that in mind. So then, and now the next thing that you would need, where did I put it? I brought it over here. I know I did. Oh, here it is. Here I am running my mouth. Your incense. Your incense is going to set the mood. Okay? Now, what type of incense you use also helps set the mood. Now, you may have a couple of different incense things going. Now, why do I put that there? Well, some people would rather burn sage to clear their items and cleanse them. I don't like the smell of burning sage. It is just, it's noxious to me. But this brand of, this hem brand of white sage incense, it's a very calming smell. I like it very much. I recommend it. And I always have some of this burning because I may have to cleanse an item immediately. And, perfect. So I may have to cleanse an item immediately for use in another spell. And to do that, all I do is I pass it through and over the smoke coming off the incense, and then I clear it off. And then I'm able to use it immediately in another spell. So I love the smell of this. So I'm actually going to light this up right now so I have it going. So now, as I said, you're probably going to have a couple of different incense things going. So I recommend you get a couple of different incense burners. This one is very cute. I like this one. It comes with this little coaster. Now remember this. If you have, now this is actually all metal. If you have, like this, all metal, what you are going to need is you're going to need some kind of coaster or a trivet underneath it. You have to have a stone coaster, or you have to have a wooden trivet, or even a hot pad. Although I don't know if I'd still recommend a hot pad. I would recommend a stone coaster or a trivet underneath every incense burner that you have going. Okay? Very important. You do not want to scorch your altar cloths, and you do not want to cause a fire in the middle of the spell. So this one, you can find these online. They're not very expensive. I think I paid $9 for this, and like, I don't know, $6, $7 for that. This one's very cute. It has this metal grill. You can either have the grill up like this if you have a charcoal tab, or you can, again, with a charcoal tab, you can have it like this. These are charcoal tab burners. Okay, so they're not, this is self-lighting incense. And this gunk on this, I need to get off my fingers. Good thing I have my craft center here with wet wipes. It's like right by. Although, you know what? Hey, that's not a bad idea either. Having some wet wipes nearby, because you never know if there's going to be a spill and you're going to get crap all over you. So, hey, not a bad idea. I might have to add that onto my tabletop. Okay. So, you've got incense. You can have a couple of incense burners here, because sometimes if you're doing like spirit spells, you're going to have spirit incense over here, but you have to burn some items for another reason, and you need a charcoal tab in this one. There you go. Also a cauldron. I did leave my cauldron in the other room, but I did show it in my other video. I'm pretty sure I showed it in my other video. If you look at getting started in witchcraft, like the altar tools, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about, cauldron. We're not talking about like the big one, the double toil and trouble. No, no, no. It's a little tiny one. You can buy that online as well. Now, let's talk about special items. Okay, now, the warlock, Christian Day, has a skull named Robert. Robert allows him to communicate with the spirits. Now, Christian Day says that there are two different skulls, two different ways that the skull will allow you to speak to spirits. So if you have a complete skull with the jaw, then you will hear the spirits. If you have only the head, then you will hear them in your mind. You will not hear them audibly. I believe that's what he said. Don't quote me on it. It's been a while since I read the book, but I believe that's what he said. So, Christian recommends buying the skull. Here's the problem. If you go to buy a human skull, you're going to spend anywhere between $2,000 and $4,000. I am not a rich witch. I cannot afford that. Not only that, but I don't need a skull to hear spirits. But I do like the thought of having a skull on my altar. And the funny thing is that when I unpacked this skull, now this skull is like, it's a resin skull, but it's very detailed, okay? In fact, I'm going to drop it down here so that this one can see it, okay? So this skull has a lot of like resin details on it, and the jawbone. Okay. So when I got this skull and I unpacked it, I got the impression of the name Rosa. Now, obviously, this skull didn't belong to anybody. It's resin. It came brand new. And there was no spirit attached to it named Rosa. But when I looked at it, I felt Rosa. So I call my skull Rosa. And Rosa sits in a place of honor at the very top of my altar. Again, this is not a necessity, but it's kind of cool to have a skull on your altar. Now, when Halloween comes rolling around, you'll see these at Michael's. That's exactly where I got this hand. Okay. Now, when I actually had my altar set up, I would decorate Rosa. Rosa would wear party hats. She would wear, when Mardi Gras came around, Rosa had a mask, some beads, some feathers. When Christmas came around, Rosa had a Santa hat. So you can definitely dress up your altar if you have it out, and if you have a skull, that makes it even more festive. So now I bought this hand. I really wish I could find a right hand. I would love to find a right hand. Unfortunately, I cannot. All I can find is this. They have a right hand, but it is not, it doesn't look like this. It's flat here, and I don't like that. I want it to look like a bomb hand. So what I do is I have this hand here, and I bought this bowl again at a secondhand store, And this is an offering bowl. Now, what's an offering bowl? Well, if you are, say you're a voodoo practitioner, or you are, like me, a necromancer, and you need to ask a favor of Papa Legba, or you need to ask a favor of your jinns, you would place an offering for them inside that bowl as your gift to them for doing a favor for you. So that's what an offering bowl is. Now there's a couple of different offering bowls that you can use. There's that one. If you're asking Neptune, and again, this goes into the pantheon. If you go to Getting Started in Witchcraft, I show you a book that tells you a little bit about the different pantheons, and then, you know, you can figure out which pantheon you like, and, you know, figure it out from there. Do a little more research on that. But if you were to invoke Neptune, you could use some shells. Also, Aphrodite. Aphrodite was born in from the sea foam, so that would be a good thing on her. And then there's like this little, I have an elkhorn bowl as well. So any little bowls that you have, again, you can buy it at the thrift store. Don't have to break the bank. I always keep a couple of different offering bowls. Usually because I do a couple of different spells at the same time. And sometimes I have to have this group of spirits and this group of spirits. And they're all doing different things, so they all get their own offerings. So it's always good to have a couple of different bowls set up for your table. Now, one thing I want to discuss that I forgot. This goes on your main altar, okay? So this is one of the basic essentials that you will need, because I know I started getting into the little kitschy things that you could add. These two are basic essentials. I forgot about them, and I don't forget about one of them, but I usually forget the second one. So the first thing that you would have to have is an idol or a statuette. Now, it doesn't have to break your bank. I got the Wonder Woman doll, and I remade her. She came with this stuff. She did not come with this dress. My patron goddess is the goddess Athena. So every time I do spell work, my power is granted through the goddess Athena. So anytime I do spell work, my idol of Athena is on my table every single time. Now, if you are into the Asian arts, if you like say Ganesh and or Buddha, then you would have their statues on your altar. If you choose to go with voodoo or Santeria. Santeria, you would probably have religious icons like Mother Mary on your altar. And if you do the voodoo, and you were intoning Papa Legba, you would probably have more. See, I'm not a voodoo practitioner. I don't get to see their altars very often. You would probably have something more along the lines like maybe of a ragdoll. But one thing I do know about Papa Legba, when you are intoning him, or if you are intoning Hades, you do need keys on your altar. These are the keys for the gates of the underworld. So anytime, especially if you're a necromantic witch, these are like, I think these are like Tim Holtz keys, so you can go to like any craft store and buy them. Okay? And so anytime you are invoking to release souls from the underworld, either through Papa Legba or through Hades, you are going to need keys on your altar. So just remember that. Now we're going to talk about, we're going to go back to little things that you can have, ideas. I did talk about this in my other video. Again, now let's talk about your antheme. Now, this I use all the time. I use it for everything. I use it to bond dolls. I use it to summon spirits. I use it to energize things. So this is, you know, you think, oh, which uses one? I use this for just about everything. I open portals with everything. I hardly ever pick up a wand. So I do have a couple, although I've hardly ever use them. I do have a couple of different things. Now, one thing that Christian Day suggests that you use is, with working with the dead, is bronze. Now, this is not bronze, and I work fine with the dead with it. But I searched high and low, and I did find this. It is actually solid bronze. And it's a letter opener. You don't have to have a dagger. An antheme is normally like a dagger. You don't have to have one. It's a letter opener will work just fine, especially this. I mean, you look at this, it looks like it's Mayan. So if you're doing any of those spells. And then, of course, I'm Irish, so I have I have the harp and the dagger letter opener. So this would be really good, especially if you were in the Celtic pantheon. This would be really good. I got this online again. This is from Lifey Artifacts, and I bought this on eBay, so you can look that up. Again, not that expensive. I think it was like 13 bucks, and this was like 20 or 25. So again, you can get yourself a really nice letter opener. You do not have to have a dagger, okay? You can get yourself a nice letter opener, something that represents you. Remember, this is all representing you. So whatever you feel represents you, that's perfect. Now, oh, the bell. The bell is a definite need to have, and you can get a bell anywhere. It doesn't have to be, this one has the triple moon on it. You don't have to have the triple moon. You don't have to have anything fancy. If you have a bell that you can repurpose, hey, that's witchcraft life, you know. Why do you need the bell? So when you start to do your spell work, you are going to be summoning it's not the elements. I'm trying to think of the word. Basically, you're going to be summoning the north, the south, the east, and the west. The spirits of those 4 points of the compass, okay? So when you call them, you recognize them by ringing the bell each time. So when you call the north, you intone for them to join you tonight, and you ring the bell. You call the east, you intone them to join you tonight, and you ring the bell. So you do that for all of them, and then you intone for the goddess or god. Some people have the god and goddess on here, on their top here. I don't feel that I need the god. I have the goddess Athena. She's my patron goddess, and I get all of my power from her. If I'm doing a specific spell that would need a specific god, like Fortuna is the goddess of luck, then what I would have is I would have Athena, and I would have an idol of the goddess Fortuna. Athena is always on my altar. And I suggest that if you find a patron god or goddess, that one is always on your altar. And it could be, you know, if you don't have the skull, you could have, if you're doing a couple of different spells, you could have that god or goddess in the focal point right there at the top, and then you can have another god or goddess or two goddesses or whatever spell you're using. You could have idols for them as well. Just make sure that your primary patron god or goddess is on your altar every time you do a spell. And then you are going to invoke them to come join you, and then you're going to ring the bell for that. Then when you are closing out your spell and you release them, as you bid them adieu, you ring the bell to mark that they have left. Okay? So the bell is very, very important in your spell work. Also, when you close out your spell, when you are finally finished with your spell, to seal it, you ring the bell to intone that that spell is sealed. Okay, so let's talk about other things. Charcoal tablets. I don't know if anybody does not know what they are yet. So what charcoal tablets are these, they're basically kind of like, I wouldn't say self-igniting really, but they will catch when you light them. Okay, so this is a charcoal tablet. Okay. What I do, and everybody's different, you can do something different. Do you remember these? You know what these are? These are spaghetti tongs, and very few people have them nowadays. You can always go to a thrift store, some charity shop or something, and find them. So people are getting rid of them, like your grandmother had them, and people are getting rid of them because they don't know what they are anymore. Go to, you know, get it for $1, you know, at Goodwill. So what I do is I hold this right here, and then I light it. And the way you light it, and I don't want to light this because I don't have like any incense to go in it. But what you do is you would run this, okay, I'm going to turn that off. You would run this along here until you see it start to spark and catch. And as it go, you have to watch it to make sure that you can see the line starting to come through to light the whole thing. You can see the little sparks and everything come through it. Once that's lit, you would put it in your incense burner. When it starts glowing, the whole tablet starts glowing red, that's when you can add your incense in it. Now what you do is you put it, it has this little indentation right there. So that's where you're going to put your incense. So that is a charcoal tablet. You always should have charcoal tablets on standby, because you never know. You have to burn copal or frankincense or myrrh or some other resin-based type of incense. Like if you buy my spirit summoning incense, you're going to have that. So definitely that for, and especially if you have, now if you buy my black salt has a little bit of an incendiary inside of it. So if you burn the black salt as part of the spell, then that will go onto the charcoal tablet. Now we've talked about candles. So here are I bought these little candlesticks. Candles work in a way that the type of spell you're using, again, you would light a candle of the corresponding color for that. Now purple, is this the purple or is this black? I think this might be black. I can't tell. I think this might, no, it might be purple. So purple is intuition. Green is obviously money. You could burn the same color candles, different colored candles. Again, I would have like a piece of paper underneath it if you do, because these will obviously drip. Okay, so you can have those type of candles. Now I have sealing wax. You can't use regular wax on this. You can't take that candle and use it. This is sealing wax. It's a softer wax. It's a finer wax. I do have a ring with my initial on it, and I do have some stampers. That is if you need to seal off a spell, if you need to fold over paper and seal off a spell. That is what you would do. You would not pour any of the wax from the candles here. Holy water, you can make your own or you can buy it. You might have to use it. Quills and ink, you may have to use that for a different spell as well. This one you would have to, obviously, like in the days of our forefathers, colonials, you would have to sharpen that down with a knife. You cannot use your antheme. You have to sharpen this down with a knife, and you can use that with ink. Again, color comes into it. Or this is actually a pen. So this is a peacock feather, and I have a pen nib on the end of it because I decided to cheat. So I can be a lazy witch. Now, why do I have this? Why do I have a plate stand? If you have a book of shadows, or if you have like your own spell written out on the fly, or just ingredients that you have, it's good to have that placed right there. It keeps it open. Your book is not in the way. You're not going to end up spilling anything on your book or your spell. So So that's up, it's out of the way, you can read it, and that's why I have a plate stand. Okay, so that's for Book of Shadows. Again, you don't have to have it, but hey, it's a good time saver. Okay, and then candle snuffer. Never, ever, ever, ever blow out your candles. It's blowing away the energy and the magic that you have put in there. You snuff them with a candle snuffer. If you don't have a candle snuffer, of course, you can wet your fingers and snuff it out like that. Don't blow out your candles. And I think I have, the last thing that I have here, it's a dish of salt. Now, I like the pink Himalayan salt. You can go ahead and put that here. If you need to salt a crystal, or if you need to clear off a bowl, I would not recommend this. But you can do this with the shells. You put it in the crystals, the salt. The salt is used as a cleanser for all of your magical tools. Also, you can pass it through this. So when I'm closing out and I am clearing off my space here, every time I do, I pick up and I pick them up in the order that I have put them on the altar. So the last thing that went on is the first thing that goes off. So the last thing that, except for now the bell is the last thing that goes on the altar. The bell is the first thing that comes off because you've cleared everybody. Everybody is gone. You've sealed off all your spells. You've released the energy. So the bell is the first one. You pass it through the smoke. You clear it off. You put it off to the side. Next item, which would be my idol of Athena. So I take her off, pass her through the smoke. This is why I always have incense burning off to the side. I just pass them through the smoke, clear off the energy, put it down. Next item. And that's how you clear off your altar. I think I have pretty much covered the basic necessities, and then all the little add-ons that you could add as you get more proficient, as you get more comfortable, or if you just like the idea. So that is it for this video, and I will see you in the next one, where I will be talking about what should I talk about in the next video? How about I teach you about different colors and their different meanings, and what you can use them for. I think that's what I will talk about in the next one, and possibly crystals. I might include it in that depending on how much time I have. So the next one will be discussing colors, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Boom, 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 boom.